Nice to meet you, Peter. My name is Imtiaz Bhayat. I'm the CIO at Regis Aged Care. At Regis Aged Care, we look after all things digital, and aged care is such an exciting place to be because, it's transforming into healthcare very rapidly.
Yeah. I'm keen to learn a bit more because I saw your presentation here at the summit, but I'd love to hear from you firstly, like what brings you to this event with RLDatix?
Yeah, good question. So the main thing is we're talking about our AI initiatives. And AI is such a topical word. Everyone's looking at, we're hearing it at conferences constantly. I guess what I was talking about is the journey we went on to build a POC tool or build a tool, in an AI tool, and the journey that we went on to try to understand all the different factors about creating a repeatable and reproducible model that will be good from a clinical perspective. Because AI is such a broad tool, it could give you a variable result, and we don't want that in healthcare.
I love this for two reasons. Firstly, because in aged care, often if, we could get into a bit of a cycle of, there's not a great deal of, if you're in the wrong circles, not a great deal of digital adoption and, there's other problems to solve. But then also, as you mentioned, there's a lot of hype and excitement around artificial intelligence. A lot of people can talk about what we potentially might be able to do with it one day. But that was, you went deep in the weeds there in terms of that presentation of like how you're applying it and your thinking around, ensuring it's safe, but also as effective, if not more effective than what we've got today. Talk me through some of that. Just, I know we won't get the full picture of it, but your process for implementing this tool into, particularly the aged care setting.
Yes. Look, I think with AI tools, Peter, you need to get into the weeds because the tool is so flexible. It's like using a multi-pronged tool, like in a toolbox. Yeah. If you don't know what you're going to use the tool for, people could use it in the wrong way.
Yeah. So use the analogy of a Swiss Army knife or something.
The Swiss Army knife was the analogy we used. In a lot of ways, AI is like that.
Yeah.
But if we think about using a corporate system, from a corporate system, we want something that people know how to use. They need to know what they're using it for. So we feel that in the first instance, trying to understand what some real problem and pain points are, try to understand our systems and where the AI can augment and improve those systems is where we got to. But as you said, we got down into the weeds because the weeds is where we help solve problems. When you're taking out a weed from the garden looks a lot better.
Yes, true.
Right? Yeah. And you've actually made a distinct change.
I found it interesting too. I personally think that the use of AI for that particular problem to solve is the one that many health systems could really lean into, which is there's a lot of information for a clinician to consume, like in a nurse in that example or anyone. And it's like either humanly difficult or near impossible to consume all of the information that would be required of you of the role. Even if you did, it's not sustainable and potentially it's not safe either. So I guess it was a reminder to me that, whilst there's a lot of potential of artificial intelligence in the future, even now in other areas of healthcare, just being able to consume so much information, but then to be able to put it in digestible ways, I feel like that's a real solid win there. So it seems like where you'll focus.
Yeah, I think it's a game changer because, where clinical systems have got to, Peter, is that they're great at capturing information or great at capturing data. And these days, because we all use it as part of our standard day-to-day, methods of working, all this information is being sucked into the systems.
Yeah.
Now, the systems haven't evolved that well in terms of how you use that data in a productive way thereafter. Great at capturing, not so good at now using it to do things of a predictive nature, which is also the other aspect that's interesting with this data on with these AI tools. Yeah. It helps you not just the backward-looking concept, but it helps you do prediction and using all the context of the data you just collected.
Yeah, and I think that's reassuring, or at least should provide decision makers within healthcare systems a bit of excitement too, because I guess we've been investing all these years in terms of data to be able to then, I guess, reap dividends around, the information that's captured. I guess we can find those tools that can look at historically what we've got. And yes, that's retrospective, but potentially that helps in other predictive tools, as you suggest as well. Lastly, you made a point at the end that I thought was a really good one, that many health systems will kind of grapple with anywhere in healthcare around innovation and dealing with the current system, because whilst we can create a tool and even get people on board to use it, to consume a lot of information. Sometimes the system still doesn't keep up. So in the example of, it's still a requirement that, a nurse reads through all the information, which is kind of the problem that we're trying to solve in the first place. Yes. What's your take? And there's no simple answer, but I guess it's almost a call out to, the system overall in terms of ensuring that regulation and everything keeps up with the rate of change. Is that kind of where we need to go with this?
I think what we're going to do, I think we're at the cusp of understanding how these tools work. I talked about 3 important factors that you use to fine-tune AI models: temperature, top P, and top K. I think where we're getting to is that we're trying to understand what those measures mean. So trying to understand large language models. And, top P is a measure of the probability of a word matching another word. Mm-hmm. When we look at those measures in a combined way, we're at the place where we're at a frontier, trying to understand how these 3 measures work together to give us a good result. I think at this experimental phase, us learning about those measures, us learning about what a large language model is and how to use a large language model is the place we're at. But I actually think that we all need to be at that place of playing around with it, because playing around with it gives us transparency. All of a sudden, 3 weeks ago, literally, I did not know about temperature, top P and top K. And these are fundamental aspects about how a word is linked to another word.
Yeah.
And how you set the model up as to whether it's broad, whether it's narrow, and how broad and how narrow.
Yeah.
So I think we all need to play around with it to get that transparency in order to take the next steps in the next few years.
I think that's good reassurance to provide some motivation to others in healthcare too, that feel like, oh, there's all these terms, I'm not an expert in this. I think if you just focus a bit, we're all on this journey together. I think that if we can break down some of those preconceived ideas and get immersed, then that's how we solve big problems. Any other final thoughts before we jump back into the sessions?
No, great talking. Thanks so much.
Thank you.